What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Ranger Talk episode. And today I have a very, very special guest. It's none other than Milton of ProgPower USA. What's going on, man? Thank you
Sorry, man.
so much for joining me here.
Of course, it's my pleasure. It's always a pleasure to chat about metal, about prog power, and just have a good time, you know? Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So, all right, first thing I want to ask, when did you first get into power slash prog metal? How were
Hmm.
you first introduced to that genre?
So I was living in Brazil at the time. And I had gotten, I think I was about 11, 12 years old. I started playing guitar. I had a friend of mine from school who was a very, very advanced guitarist at that age. You know, the kid was 12, 13 years old and he was playing like Malmsteen, Steve Vai, stuff like that. Yeah, it was insane. So
Wow.
so he started teaching me how to play guitar. And he was the one who introduced me to guitarists like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and Vim Malmsteen, and all of those Guitar Hero type guys.
Yeah.
And I really got into that style. And somebody told me, you need to check out this band from Brazil. They're called Angra. And if you like Vai and Satriani and everything, I think you're really gonna dig that.
Yes.
So, a buddy of
Andre
mine,
Matos.
that's right. Yeah, man. Miss
Long
him so
live.
much. Miss him so much. Yeah.
Yes.
So he sent me, this is back when one MP3 song took hours to download, right?
On
So
LimeWire, right?
yeah, so he sent me an MP3 of Carry On from Angels Cry, and I was hooked immediately. I was like, what the hell is this? There's the guitars, there's the really cool vocals, and there's like what sounds like an orchestra in the background. What is going on, kind of thing. And it was, I think the first four bands I listened to in specifically power metal, right? My like the first rock band I got into was Guns N' Roses, and I was 6 years old. So, but um, strictly power metal, it was Angra, it was Rhapsody, um, Blind Guardian, and Stratovarius.
Oh,
So it started there. I should.
great four. Great
Yeah,
four.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So it's in, like I said, I was 12, 13 years old, so it's going on, 25 years now. That it's been a part of my daily life.
Awesome. I love your sweater. I recently talked to Bill Hudson
Oh
of
yeah,
Northtail. Yeah,
gotta wrap it. Yeah.
great
Bill is a
stuff.
Bill is a very close friend of mine. We go back uh close to 20 years now too. And yeah, love the guy. And we actually had Northtail scheduled to play Prague Power last year. There were some issues with their visa, and we had to replace them. But I think they will get a chance to come to our show. So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, Bill's a great dude. And
yeah.
yeah, Angra. Oh man, doesn't get any better than that. But so what exactly is your role in Prague Power USA, the festival itself? Yeah.
So Prague Power is a 4 day festival taking place every year in Atlanta. 4 days of progressive power metal bands, and for years we've branched out of those two genres. So we just bring good metal, I guess, good music, right? It was founded by the main promoter of the festival. His name is Glenn Harveston. He founded it back in 2001, and the festival has been going strong since. About 10 years ago, he brought me on board as a co-promoter. So the way it's structured now, we are three promoters for the 4 nights of the festival. So Glenn handles nights 3 and 4, sort of like the main nights, if you would, of the festival. I handle night 2, which is the Thursday night, and our other co-promoter Nathan Block handles the opening night, the Wednesday. So if you can think of one festival but three separate shows, in a way. Um, and but obviously, we book everything sort of together in a way. We know what each other are bringing, so we try to balance it all out and everything. So yeah, so it's I'm one of the co-promoters of the festival. I'm one of the people who are crazy enough to try to make this happen. you know.
Has there been any difficulty in organizing such a festival in the US? Being somebody who lives in the US themselves, there's a lot of power in prog metal in Europe and South America and other places, but not so much in the US. So have you had any difficulties or challenges
I
doing
mean,
this in the US?
so when Glenn founded the festival, the idea of it was to be able to bring those bands from Europe and from South America, those bands that you wouldn't see them here in the States otherwise. They wouldn't be able to do a tour because maybe they didn't have enough of a fan base at the time. So that was the idea behind the festival. The cool thing about it is that a lot of these bands that tour here all the time now started at ProgPower. It was the first chance they had to play in the States. The first Epica show was in the States. Blind Guardian, Angra, Gamma Ray. I could go on and on and on. Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
a Nightwish. Nightwish was a big one.
Really? The first time
Sabaton,
Nightwish played in
yeah,
the States was through
was a
ProgPower.
ProgPower. So
Wow.
so we have this history of really being the birthplace in a way for some of these bands that are touring the States all the time now. And it's something very special to be able to say, the first time Nightwish played in the States, it was at Prague Power back in 2003, for instance. So yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome.
Now, in terms of your question, have there been any difficulties? Um, Definitely in terms of cost, right? Because it's so expensive to bring bands over. Definitely in terms of being able to get their visas, because that's a ridiculous cost that is sort of beyond our ability to determine if they're going to be approved or not. We rely on the government to approve them. So oftentimes there are issues. The visa process in the States is not very good. Um, and yeah, I think those are probably the biggest issues in terms of bringing bands over. You know.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of folks probably don't fully recognize or appreciate that transition, with the visas and things like that. It's like, hey, why can't you play here when you've played over here all the time? But
Mhm.
visas play a huge issue, and
Yeah.
it's is that something that you would say is specific to the US, or is it something that other
Very,
countries
very
face
much,
as well?
very much so. It's very much a US only thing. The US has some very interesting and somewhat arbitrary processes in terms of approving the visas for bands. Um, the way it works, it's determined based on the band's international recognition, in their career. So in other words, they need to prove that they are relevant, okay? And then they request all of this documentation showing whether or not they're relevant. So they'll ask for, your history of touring, your history of sales, magazine articles all over the world, that we are always that we have to provide in order for the application to go through. Uh, the challenge is that, well, there are many challenges, but one of the challenges is that there is no criteria that's defined to determine if a band is relevant internationally or not. So it's entirely up to the person processing the application in their office. So if you think that in your mind Iron Maiden is a relevant band, because Iron Maiden, they tour all over the place. They play for 25,000 people, on their tour. But then you compare it to a band like, let's say Angra, for instance,
Yeah.
that comes to the States and does a tour and plays for, maybe 300 people,
Mhm.
or they go to Europe and they play for 1,000 people, So if that person thinks, well, I've never heard of this band Angra, so that they're probably not internationally recognized, boom, denied. So that's
Wow.
that's the first thing. It's arbitrary. Not to mention, if the person processing the application wakes up in a bad mood and he decides to deny the application, there's no control. We and once we pay for it, even if the application gets denied, we don't get that money back. And you're talking about thousands of dollars per band. So it's a challenging process. And then after that, there's a whole because the US gets so many visa applications, they're always backed up. So oftentimes we're able to get the visa approved, but the band can't get it in time because their offices are so backed up. They can't schedule the interviews. So it's very difficult. We need to do everything way, way ahead of time. And they have an option where they say, well, we can guarantee your application is processed within 2 weeks if you pay us an extra $2,500 or however much it is. So it just blows my mind that we as a country make it so difficult for international artists to come over here and and show their art, which is what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's becoming harder and harder and more expensive than ever. So people really need to start paying attention to this because it's making a lot of tours not viable anymore.
That's
So
crazy because it really brings a lot of revenue to the city, the county, the state of
yeah,
Georgia,
yeah, for sure.
that where it takes place, Atlanta.
For sure.
It's like a win-win, you would think, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and it's yeah, it's challenging. I've had bands that we paid for the visa application, we paid for the fee to get it processed faster, and they couldn't get an interview scheduled at the consulate because once they approve the petition, the band still has to go to their consulate to have an interview.
Oh, geez.
But sometimes that process is also backed up. So I've had bands that had their visa approved, but couldn't come to do the show because they couldn't get an interview scheduled. So it's just it's just it's probably the most stressful thing that we go through as promoters of ProgPower. It's certainly one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive. And it's probably the one thing that that has a saying every year, you know, one of these days we're just gonna we're done. I don't want to do this anymore. It's because of the visa. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. So I imagine this deters a lot of bands from even
Mhm.
trying to go to Prog Power USA. Do
Sure.
you have any difficulties when you reach out to bands and they're like, we don't feel
Um,
like dealing with that, or
so over the years, we realized that it's become harder to bring like the brand new bands that don't have a lot of history, that don't have a lot of touring.
yeah,
Um, it's become very difficult to bring some of those smaller, very exclusive niche bands because chances are their visa petition will not get approved. You know, so there are several bands that we would love to bring, but the chances of the visa being approved are very slim, and it's not worth trying. You
yeah.
know, if you know there's a 90% chance you're gonna lose that money, you're not gonna try it. So
So how did Prog Power USA really establish itself as such a prominent festival to be able to get bands outside the US to be willing to go through this process to come to the States and perform?
I think that would be a question for Glenn since he was the founder of the festival.
Mhm.
Um, but he really had, you know, speaking. So I started going to the festival as a fan, right? So it's been a part of my life for 21, yeah, 21 years now, and I've been a co-promoter for 10. But he really had a vision to bring the best festival experience you could imagine for metalheads in the States, right? He envisioned a very small festival, like a very intimate atmosphere. He envisioned a way to bring some of these bands, like I said, that you wouldn't otherwise see in the States. Um, and you know, he figured he would roll the dice. You know, he had no concert promotion experience at the time, so he just put his face out there, and it's amazing what he's been able to build. You know, and it's truly to me, it's truly just a privilege and an honor to be a part of it because, like I said, it was my yearly vacation. You know, I would go with my friends just to check out the bands and to be able to be a part of it, you know, 20 something years later is just incredible. And to see it still going so strong, you know, it's awesome. So it's yeah.
Cool. So once you've determined the bands that you can bring to Prague Power USA and all of that, what are some of the logistics as far as preparing the festival and organizing the bands in a certain way once they've been selected? How's it work as far as the festival itself?
I mean, you know, most of us don't live in Atlanta.
Mhm.
So we'll come a few days early. You know, we've been in the same venue uh since 2001 in Atlanta. So, you know, obviously you prepare everything ahead of time, you know, emails, phone calls with between equipment and venue and bands and all of the logistics, you know, is all done ahead of time. And then we come in a few days early and it's you know, 16, 18-hour days of work. Uh,
Oh man.
but it's worth it, you know, but it's worth it. So and yeah, we have a phenomenal crew that they're all family to us, and everybody in our crew wants the festival to succeed as much as I do, as much as Glenn does, as much as Nathan does. So there's that trust in our crew, That's really cool. So yeah, we work year round on the festival. You know, we get home after the festival. We take, maybe a couple of days off to just decompress, and the phone calls already start we're gonna because we're gonna put tickets on sale soon, and we just
Yeah.
lost the lineup. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we have to do ahead of time. Yeah, and so it's yeah, I think from a logistics perspective, we just come to Atlanta and we work our asses off and we put on the best show that you can think of. You know? Uh, yeah.
Awesome, man. There's a lot of bands that I think have made their US debut at ProgPower USA. How does that make y'all feel, about being able to exclusively kind of live show certain bands that have never played in the US before?
It's really cool to be able to say you brought something for the first time,
Yeah.
right? It's, I mean, we've been doing it for a while now, so um, there's really no there's really no not too much ego about it as much as just being able to finally have that band that people wanted to see come to the States. I mentioned a bunch that Glenn brought, in the early days for the first time. Um, and I joke with him, you've been doing this 20 something years, you're jaded now. I probably am a little bit too. But this year, for instance, even though it won't be the debut, um, we were the first festival to announce the Halo effect, for instance. And it was just really cool to be the first one to have that confirmation. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it gives the festival a little credibility. It reminds people that you're there and you know what you're doing. A few years ago, before the pandemic, we brought a band from Japan called Galnerius,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, yeah.
and people had been asking about that band for many many years. I Nobody thought that that would happen, um, and it was a matter of, hey, let's try to bring Galnerius. I think they would be a great band for the lineup. And we did it, and it's really cool uh, to to just see people so excited about, finally seeing that band all the way from Japan.
Yeah.
And there were people backstage that brought like their guitars to get signed, and it's so crazy, you know. And the band, they were so graceful and they were so appreciative of everything, it was that was really cool. So not so much a personal ego, like I want to be the first one, as much as, hey, if we get a chance to give people that opportunity and that feeling to
Yeah.
finally see a band they want to see, then let's do it, as long as it makes sense for us too, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. So, what are your thoughts on the power slash prog metal scene in the States? A lot of these bands, the more well known or prolific bands, are from Europe or South America or what have you. What are your thoughts on just the scene in the US and people's thoughts on the power and prog metal scene in the US in general?
um there's definitely been a bit of a uptick, I think, in terms of bands coming from the States in power metal. You know, we've had several. Uh, at the festival in the past. I'm bringing Seven Kingdoms this time, who are a band that have really grown exponentially, and are touring all the time now, and they've built a really cool fan base, and are just going strong, and it's great to see it because I also worked with that band when they were just starting. So it's
Really? Wow.
really cool to see. Yeah, it's really cool to see how far they got. Or a band like Seven Spires, for instance, which are so dear to me, and so great to work with. Um, I know they're in Canada, but Unleash the Archers,
Yeah.
another band that just blew up, and they're one of our top names this year. I think there are several excellent bands in the States, both for power and for prog metal. Um, I think there are several bands that I personally don't care about very much. But that's a matter of taste.
Yeah, fair enough.
Um, yeah, nothing against it. I just prefer a lot of the stuff from Europe. There's
Yeah.
something about it that I think a lot of the power metal bands in the States don't have. And I don't know if it has anything to do with, I don't know where that comes from. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is that they're missing, but
Culture or,
it might, yeah, it
whatever.
might
Yeah.
be a cultural thing, sure. Um, and there's something to be said about the style as well, right? You think of the big power metal bands, like the classic ones, if you would, some of those that I mentioned before, uh,
Yeah.
you know, Blind Guardian, Gamma Ray, Stradivarius, etc.
Yeah.
Uh, Camelot would be the equivalent in the States,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite bands, by the way. And then there was Iced Earth,
Yeah.
but Iced Earth had a very different vibe, had a very different style to them than all of these other ones.
Right.
And probably because they have those American influences more so than the European bands. So yeah, I think it's great that there is a scene in the States. Um, and it's good for everybody that it just keeps on growing,
Yeah.
you know.
Have you heard Immortal Guardian?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've known Carlos Emma, their singer,
Oh,
for many years,
yes.
um, back from when he was briefly in Outworld, back from when he was in Vogan,
Yeah.
out of Brazil.
Yeah.
The guy is just a monster. The guy's
Oh,
phenomenal.
dude.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, no, they're a really cool band, and it just hasn't happened, yeah, in terms of them playing ProgPower, and not to say they won't, it just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
But I like the band, yeah.
So, are there any bands out there yet that haven't played Prog Power that you would love to see play in the
Oh,
festival?
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, of course, excluding like the big impossible ones like Iron Maiden and Dream Theater and stuff. um
Yeah.
yeah, I can't even think because there are so many. I
Yeah.
can't even, I'll tell you a band that I've always wanted to bring to Prog Power, and if I can help it, I will someday.
Okay.
And it's not Prog or Power, but
Okay.
I think they would go over so well as a headliner, and that band is Creator.
Creator. Okay.
I think they would just blow the roof off of that place. I think they would go on great. Um, so they come to mind. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many. Um, but I will say, and we briefly mentioned it earlier on, um, the one that I really wanted to have play at the festival, and it almost happened 3 times, uh, was Andre Matos.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one that
Ah,
got away, you know,
the
and
one truly.
it was yeah, it was unfortunate what happened. And yeah, it almost three times
Oh,
that we almost had him join us, but it wasn't meant to be, you know.
oh man.
Yeah.
The Edu Falashi, great vocalist, man. Great. I love what he did with Angra.
Hmm.
Good stuff. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
Edu was with us at ProgPower 3 times. He had two Angra shows,
Awesome.
and he played with his band Alma. Um, I want to say 2014, maybe. I'm
Okay.
not entirely sure. Um, yeah, maybe 2014. And yeah, great guy. I love his solo stuff.
Yeah.
I love Veracruz, the his
Yeah.
last album.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's another one that is probably more of a matter of when rather than if in
Right.
terms of coming back. Love Edu, great guy, uh, great musician, you know, really hard worker. He's gone through so many challenges in his career with his issues with his vocal cords and everything. So it's really nice to see him still going strong.
Yeah.
So
So I know Prog Power has kind of branched out. You know, there are bands that I guess you could say kind of fall outside of the general Prog Power category, you know, like hypocrisy or things like that. How did that come about, and how do you feel about, you know, bands in the melodic death or whatever genres, you know, joining the festival?
there's something to be said about challenging your audience. And this doesn't just go for me as a promoter, for Glenn as a promoter. I mean, in general.
Mhm.
I think a lot of bands also like that idea to give your audience something they're not expecting, to challenge them a little bit. Because um, if I can help more people knowing more good music, I'm all for it, right? Uh,
Yeah,
so it's it's I don't know, it's cool to have that oddball. I think Glenn started that at Prog Power 3 when he brought Devin Townsend. And
yeah.
Devin wasn't even, you couldn't even call him a prog artist at that time. It was so
Right.
all over the place. And I remember because I was there as a fan that year, and I remember so many people looking at him on stage and just saying, what the hell is going on? You know? Um, and Devin has been a headliner of the festival now, you know,
Yeah.
since. So there's something to be said about trying, you know, I love booking something that that makes people go, what the, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it has become a trademark of the festival to not just be stuck in those two genres.
Yeah.
And I think it's gone over really well. I mean, we've had Isan a couple of times, you know, Forbidden and Overkill and Hypocrisy and Persephone. So it, yeah, or the halo effect, like you mentioned. Uh, but somehow all of these bands still work really well in our festival. It
Mhm.
helps balance it out. You know, and um, yeah, we'll keep going with that. There's some more weird stuff coming. Yeah.
What would you say is the most oddball band that you've featured at the festival so far?
The most oddball. Um, I think in I have to credit Glenn, of course, because he's brought so many more oddballs than Nathan and I have. Um, I'm gonna name a few.
Yeah.
Uh, Diablo Swing Orchestra,
Oh, yes.
he brought way back then. Um, and it was one of those, the hell is going on that stage?
Yeah, I bet.
So Diablo Swing Orchestra, obviously overkill and forbidden at the time for being just straight up thrash metal bands.
Yeah.
Um, um, Glenn also brought Poets of the Fall from Finland, and
Nice.
they're not progressive. They're certainly not power metal. There's not they're more like an alternative, proggy alternative rock, if you would. I
Yeah.
don't know how to describe them, but again, it worked so beautifully. You know, they had such a lovely set in the music and their melodies, and it was just yeah. Um, yeah, I think these, obviously Hypocrisy last year was incredible to see.
Yeah. Wild choice, but oh man, I've been a fan of Hypocrisy for a
Yeah.
long time now, and yeah, Peter Tartgren, great songwriter,
Mhm.
producer. All
Yeah.
he's got his hands in a
And
lot of
it's
things.
it's interesting too because his other project, Pain,
Yeah,
played ProgPower before.
they did. Wow,
Uh,
I did not know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So and I want to say it was also their US debut. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to ask Glenn that. But so there was that relationship with Peter already.
Yeah,
He knew what the festival was, and yeah, it's always cool to bring something unexpected, I think.
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Pain is kind of like a electronic
Yeah,
melodic death metal, like
yeah,
very peculiar. It's hard to categorize.
it goes back to yeah, those bands that are just hard to define.
Yeah,
Um, you can take a band, like Leprous, for instance. They're categorized as progressive metal, but it's really hard to define what they sound like or what they are like
yeah,
when you think that Dream Theater is also progressive metal and they sound nothing alike.
yeah,
But I would say that a lot of our audience has gotten used to us bringing the weird, the different things, and
yeah.
they've also developed their taste more. There's a lot of people that when they started coming to the festival, they're like, I just want to listen to the Halloween clones and the Dream. Um, and now they're like, man, that Hypocrisy show was great.
Yeah,
So it's nice to help people develop that too.
that's awesome. Yeah, expose folks to
Exactly.
genres or styles that
Exactly.
they wouldn't otherwise listen to, but they're there to listen to a certain band, and then they hear that, and it's like, oh, that's not
Yeah.
so bad. Yeah, I dig it.
That's something I always tell people too. When you come to ProgPower, even if there are bands that you don't know or that you think you won't like, give them a chance. Watch a song or two because you never know. You might walk away a fan. So
Yeah. So, how do you feel about all of those subgenres? Because these days, there's a subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre. Like it gets wild. Like, what's your take on that? How do you feel about all that?
um, it's it's a little bothersome. It's a little annoying to be honest with you because um, it's genres, it's a way to sort of describe what the band's style is, right? What they sound like.
Yeah,
But like I said, the example of Lepers and Dream Theater, they're
yeah,
progressive metal bands that sound nothing alike.
yeah,
And I can throw Orphanland in the middle. They're also a progressive metal band that sounds nothing like the other two. So it's, I think people should approach genres and subgenres as just a very abstract way to sort of like of what to expect when they listen to the band. I
Yeah.
don't think it's I don't think it defines anything.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, just sort of I, I don't know. It's so it doesn't really categorize. It's sort of a categorization of the band, but it doesn't really define what they sound like necessarily. Um, and then it gets really like really ridiculous too.
It does.
The subgenre with like the seven adjectives to
It
it.
does.
So
It does.
yeah,
It
it's
goes so deep, man. I
yeah,
look at some. I agree with you. It's like we should keep these main genres
mhm,
as like a general descriptor of kind of what
yeah,
you can expect and go from there. Like there's no need
yeah,
to just boom, 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 like go sixfold down like these crazy descriptors. It's wild, man.
yeah. Um, you know, stuff like, oh, it's a brand new cinematic metal band, and I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? Or like, um, I like when Angra broke up
Yeah.
in the late '90s, and Kiko and Rafa continued with the band, and the other guys formed Shaman.
Uh-huh. Yeah, shaman, yeah.
And when Shaman came out, and I love them. They're again, the band is like in my heart, Angra and Shaman and stuff.
Yeah.
But they came out saying, "Oh, we're not a power metal band. We play mystic metal." And I just remember thinking, "Why are you doing that?" And they were trying to, it was a bit of a marketing thing to come up with a new
Yeah.
thing. But I was like, "Why are you doing that? You're a power metal band. Don't
Yeah.
um,
That's kind of how I feel about the genre, like
yeah,
gent metal. It's like you're describing the sound that like the bass makes, like when you're playing like gent. Like what is gent? Like I don't know, man.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I can see the argument for gent to becoming a subgenre.
Okay.
I don't mind that one so much because um I think there are definitely enough adjectives to describe a band so that they sound different, completely different from just progressive metal.
Yeah.
So that one doesn't bother me so much,
Yeah.
to
Okay.
tell you the truth. Um, but
I guess I just hate that name, gent. It's like
yeah, it could be a little bit better. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
it just peeves me.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think it really gets out of hand when you start adding like I said, the five or six different, you know,
Yeah.
to it. Fantasy, neoclassical, mystic, epic, cinematic power metal.
That sounds awesome. What you just
Yeah,
described right now, we need a band that has all of that.
sure. But you could make the argument that you can cut all of those out and just call them power metal.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
guess it just sounds fancier when you name it all like that. You just said like neoclassical, epic, cinematic, fantasy. It's like, wow,
I
I need
think
to
it.
hear that right
I think
now.
it's also something to be said about the fact that there are so many bands, there are so many power metal bands.
Yeah,
If you just say it's a power metal band, people could automatically think, oh, it's not a power metal band, it's just another power metal band.
yeah,
So
fair enough.
they need to somehow catch people's attention, differentiate themselves somehow. So I would assume that that has to do with why they need to subcategorize everything so many levels, you know?
Yeah, and that to your point, it's like if you think power metal now, you think, okay, so it's power metal. So is it like Rhapsody of Fire power metal? Is it Blind Guardian power metal? Is it Stradivarius power metal? Like what there's so many different styles in the genre. I
Yeah.
guess folks want to know what style within that genre it is now, because
Yeah.
somebody may not like the extreme medieval Tolkien style Rhapsody of Fire. They might want the more aggressive Blind Guardian or the more neoclassical kind of Stradivarius.
I think there are also a lot of bands that have crossover between different genres, right?
Yes,
So for instance,
Beast in Black.
I yeah, I have seen so many arguments between friends of mine about whether Symphony X is a power metal band or it's a progressive metal band.
Right.
You know, and same thing with Angra, you know, as they developed throughout their career, you
Yeah.
can make an argument for them to be on either of those sides.
Yeah.
But to me, they're right smack down the middle, right in the middle. So um, I guess I don't see genres as a bad thing, but you know, it can be helpful, sure. But
It could get out of hand.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah. All right. So my last question for you is, what motivates you to keep pursuing this um position you're in, to bring bands from all over the world to the US for ProgPower? What inspires you to keep within and promoting uh the festival? I
um, so and obviously my answer could be different than my other the you know from Glenn or Nathan.
Sure.
But personally, you know, I started coming to Prague Power as a fan. Okay. And I remember the first time I was there. Um, I remember there was something about that place. There was something about that moment that I'm always gonna remember. I feel like the festival changed my life somehow.
Yeah.
Um, and I know a lot of other people who felt the same way. That it was just experiencing one time, and there was something inside that tells you, I have to do this again, and I have to do it every single year. Because if I don't, there will be a hole inside. And I've missed a festival before, a Prog Power before. Since I started going as a fan, I missed one, and you know, it, again, I don't know how to describe why you feel that way, but I was miserable that weekend. Knowing everybody was there, I was, you know, in tears.
Wow.
Um, so coming as a fan, knowing how special that was for me as a fan, and knowing how special it is for so many other people, um, I don't want this to go away. I don't want this to die because I know what that felt like. In a way, you're continuing to perpetuate that feeling to so many other people. That it's something really special. And again, I give total credit to Glenn because his vision was of a unique festival experience that really became just a very special festival experience. You know, it's beyond the festival. It's beyond the bands, I should say. Uh, it's about, you know, I people come to Prague Power oftentimes because it's Prague Power, not because you're the headliner or that band is the headliner. Or it, it's yeah, it became part of my life. It became part of me, and being able to do it and it to be a part of making that happen it just means a lot to me. Coming from somebody who was a just an attendee. Um, yeah, that's probably where I get my inspiration from. It's just knowing that it's a very special thing that in good things come to an end. And I want to continue doing this until the end. Because I think once it's gone, everyone's gonna miss it. So yeah, that's my
That's awesome, man. And now you get to share that joy with so many people.
sure.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and listen, making a little bit of money doing it is good too, right? So
That never hurts.
but yeah, but it's yeah, very special thing.
Awesome, man. And once again, I love your sweater. I
Oh, thank
recently
you.
spoke to Bill Hudson, dude rocks of
Yeah,
Northtail. Great, great band. And thank you again so much, Milton, for taking the
of
time to
course.
chat with me. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's been great getting some insight into the festival and all of that. But yeah, for all of you viewers out there, I'm going to put all of the ProgPower USA social media, all the links, all that kind of good stuff in the description down below. Go follow that. Are there tickets still left for this year,
So
2023?
so days 3 and 4 are sold out.
Okay.
But there are resale tickets,
Yeah.
Ticketmaster, people who can't make it anymore or whatever. Although I always tell people be very aware of scammers because they're out there.
Yeah.
It's become a really big problem concert in the concert industry.
I
But
bet. Yeah.
um, days 1 and 2, there are still tickets available on Ticketmaster. I know my day 2 has about, I'm gonna say maybe 200 tickets left. So it's
Okay.
um, hoping to see those go between now and September. I'm not sure about the numbers of day 1, but I want to say it's sort of similar to day 2. So we're hoping to see a sellout across 4 nights.
Awesome.
So
So
um,
one thing I forgot to ask, who's playing this year?
who is playing this year? So
Yeah.
our headliners
Yeah.
of all 4 nights are Doro for the first night.
Bill
Um,
Hudson, I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah,
is
yeah,
playing with Doro. Yeah.
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 So Doro, Swallow the Sun, Cynic are in the first night.
Okay.
I'm really thinking hard because after so many years, it's hard to remember.
I
So
bet.
my night, I have Beast in Black as the headliner.
Oh,
Yeah, I have Vola from Denmark, great prog metal band.
nice.
I have the Halo Effect. Um, we recently announced Elvin King as well on, um,
Can't wait. Their new album dropping very, very, very soon.
yeah, yeah, it's coming.
Can't
Uh,
wait.
Seven Kingdoms, like I mentioned, Zero Hour, then there is Mirath from Tunisia, Camelot, Unleash the Archers, Delane,
Oh,
Green Carnation, and I'm sure I'm just
oh,
forgetting and missing so many. Visions of Atlantis. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of, Evil Invaders for those who like trashier old school
yeah.
metal. Um, yeah, there's just so much good stuff across those 4 days.
Nice.
Really, there's a
Dude,
little,
Reincarnation is not a band that I've heard mentioned in quite a while. They're a little they're one of those bands I feel like is not like in the stratosphere of folks knowing, but they're not like unheard of. They're kind of in the middle, and they're so cool. I remember
There's
their
this
album that was
whole
like one song, like all the way through
there's
the
this
whole album.
whole
It's like one
yeah.
song.
So funny that you say that. A few years ago, we had Green Carnation play ProgPower, and they played the Light of Day, Day of Darkness album, which is just the one. Yeah.
They did the whole thing. Like,
Whole thing, yeah. And I always tell that the band members on stage, they all had the printed um uh the printed what do you call it, set list in
yeah,
front of them. The sheet of paper that just had one line, Light of Day, Day of Darkness kind of thing. It was hysterical. Uh
awesome.
it but they that show um, was probably the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen on our stage.
Really?
There was something about that set. There was a vibe, an atmosphere that was just it was just indescribable. Seeing that song played from beginning to end
Yeah.
was just I don't even know how to describe it. It was probably my favorite set ever at ProgPower.
Wow.
So yeah.
Are they playing
So
that this year?
no, they're playing just like a general set list with
Okay.
some of the new stuff, some old stuff. Yeah.
Wow. You
But
can't even call
check it
that
out. There's
song like a set. Like it's just a song. Like,
yeah,
but
there are some videos of that performance on YouTube. Check it out because it's
wow.
really special. So yeah, so I think we have a lot of really good stuff for everybody. Oh, I almost forgot Caligula's Horse, great
Okay.
progressive metal band from Australia.
Yeah.
Um, Ad Infinitum is playing, Windrose is playing, the
Wow.
Cryptex, Power of Prime.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so there is something for everyone for sure.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. You heard it, folks. Check it out. Like I said, I'm putting all of the Prog Power USA uh, social media, all that stuff in the description down below. Go check it out. See if there's any tickets left. If you're interested, Atlanta, Georgia, USA, a wide array of bands and genres being played there in September. Yeah.
Yep. September 6th through 9th. So yeah, I hope to see people. I hope to see everyone there. Like I said, don't get discouraged by knowing that days 3 and 4 are sold out. There's always ways to get tickets. Just be careful with the scammers, but definitely, I tell everybody it's a very special event. All bias aside, again, coming as a former attendee, um, it's a really unique experience. So definitely check it out.
Sweet. So yeah, days 1 and 2 still available as of the recording of this video. 3 and 4, you might can find tickets, but beware of scalpers and all that good stuff. But yeah, social media for Prog Power USA, description down below. Check it out. See who's playing. Buy your tickets. And if you go, say hey to Milton. Let him know that you're there. I'm sure he'll be happy to greet you. And yeah, once again, thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to chat with me. I really, really
Absolutely. Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
the chance to talk a little bit about the festival. Always appreciate it. So yeah, and hope to see everybody there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let us know in the comments down below. Did you buy your tickets already? You going to see the show? Let us know who you're going to see. What are you looking forward to? And if not, buy your tickets. Like I said, social media, all that good stuff. Description down below. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Catch y'all next time. Ranger, out.